Welcome back. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you for joining us once again. I am so excited to have you here. I'd like to thank our sponsor real quick, Veracity Networks. Thank you for believing in me and sponsoring this great podcast. And I'd also like to thank Paul Cardall for the music that you're just listening to. He has given me permission to use this music in the beginning and the end. And many of you have already heard it because you've downloaded other episodes, but it's such beautiful music. And Paul Cardall, I have to thank you for that. Today, I'm so excited to have a wonderful person on that I've known for a while now. Her name is Surae Chinn.
Hi, Todd. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yes, thank you for joining us. It's so nice of you.
I know. We've known each other for a little bit now.
Yeah.
You come on the show, Good Things Utah.
Yeah.
And I think every time you come to our show, you reach so many people and there are so many takeaways. And I always take something back. I remember the last time you were in studio, you mentioned, why not write a note or the meaning of words and to physically write a note to your loved one or whoever it may be.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. I think it means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. And I love being on your guys' show. It's such an amazing show, and you guys do so many great things. So a little background on Surae. Surae is an award-winning journalist. She joined ABC4 as the 4 p.m. anchor in 2016. She transitioned to the station's lifestyle show, which we were just talking about, Good Things Utah, in 2019 as a full-time host. She also hosts ABC4's She also is ABC4's chief medical correspondent, which is really cool. She's currently working on publishing her first children's book called When Clouds Come Out to Play. It's a book about helping kids weather the storm, and I'm excited for our listeners to hear more about that. She's also the co-founder of Lucie Gray Productions, Incorporated. It's a TV media consulting and production company, and I'm excited to hear more about that. You have 2 amazing children. You live a very busy life. You do a lot of great things. You're one of the faces of Good Things Utah, so a lot of people know you and admire you. And I want you to know I admire you because of the way you carry yourself. You're always so positive and confident, and I can't wait to hear more about your life story today.
Oh, Todd, that is such a sweet introduction. And I don't know what it is about the mood here and the music. It's just is so positive, and it kind of gets you centered a little bit.
Good. I hope so. That's what I'm shooting for.
I like it.
Well, why don't you let our listeners know, a little bit about your life growing up, where you grew up, and a little bit about your family.
I grew up in Hawaii, and it was an amazing childhood. And I know there's so much connection to Utah and Hawaii, which I was so glad to see because I ended up moving to DC with my family when I was 12. So I grew up.
What a contrast, right?
I know. I was born in Hawaii, lived there for 12 years.
Wow.
And I ended up getting married there as well. I just have so many really fond memories, and I still have childhood friends there too.
Yeah, do you go back often, or is that
not really? Especially under COVID. And
that's
the
true.
pandemic.
Right now, we're not doing that.
It's really, really hard, but I hope at some point very soon that I'll take a trip out there.
Yeah.
Bring the kids.
Yeah. So when you moved to DC, was that a hard transition for you?
Completely.
I mean, as a kid, because, you're comfortable where you grew up, and now all of a sudden you're living in DC, which is completely almost opposite of Hawaii.
It was culture shock. That's what I remember saying to myself, that you moved from Hawaii where everyone is Asian or Polynesian and they look like you. Yeah. I moved at a really hard age, 7th grade.
For sure.
That's difficult. That's such a weird, crazy time anyway.
Right.
And my family, technically outside of DC, just Northern Virginia, but I didn't see a lot of diversity at that time.
Okay.
And it was hard. It was my sister and I. We walked to school a mile and a half in the snow. I'm like, I'm not familiar with snow.
Right. Yeah. You're snow all of a sudden, right?
All of a sudden, I have to wear pants. What?
Yeah.
And it was a hard year or two. And then I realized how many opportunities there were.
Right.
Moving to such a big place, DC, and my mom would go to the National Mall and go to the Smithsonian every weekend.
Right.
And we would tag along and go to the Art Museum, the Space Museum, everything. So I feel like I've had an interesting childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a very diverse as well for you, you know, different types of cultures that you got to be a part of.
Environments and
Right.
having to navigate. It was challenging at times.
Yeah. Did you at times ever feel alone? Like, you know, because again, you go to this new place, new school, new friend, you know, new people around you. Did you ever feel like, I don't know if I want to do this or anything like that? I'm just curious.
I totally. You know, Hawaii, if you've ever been there, is so welcoming and warm. And not saying DC wasn't, but it was such a strange, different, I felt out of place,
Right.
like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And my mom is trying to navigate. She ended up, the reason why we moved, she got a job at the CIA. She was working at the University of Hawaii.
Okay.
And then ended up working for the CIA.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's cool.
And it was it was so cool.
Yeah.
Great job. And she was busy working mom, and we're going to school, and not a lot of people who looked like us, who understood Chinese culture.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a hard time. And I don't think there were a lot of people that I could turn to, because I had best friends in Hawaii. And
Sure.
we would go swimming or go to each other's homes. And here we are. Usually you transition from elementary school to middle school, and you know.
Yeah, you know who
same
you're
friends.
going with.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here you are. So I would imagine, you know, when something like that happens, when you do a move like that, it's probably more family centered, focused at that time, because that's who you know and that's who you're comfortable with. Did you feel like it brought your family closer together because of the move at times?
I think so. I definitely brought my sister, although we were fighting a lot during
Right.
that stage. But it did give me appreciation of where we were. And obviously, all those challenges made me a little tougher, too.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mentioned at the beginning that, you know, you're a very confident person. Were you always like that growing up, like just confident and kind of knew what you wanted, or?
I don't know about that. That's so interesting, the perspective you come across. And I think, you know, you do try to be your most authentic self, and that's who I am. And I think as I do get older, you feel more comfortable in your skin.
Right.
I've had to do a lot of work.
Sure.
And to be honest, I'm in therapy, and I've had to look back of how I presented myself and where I want to go.
Yeah.
And have the open eyes and awareness of, I could do better here.
Right.
I may have, you know, I don't want to say failing, but more of, I could do better.
Right.
And where can I go? I know maybe my eyes aren't completely open, but I'm getting there.
Sure.
But confidence, it's an interesting word, because I want to instill that in my children.
Right.
And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, oh, she's so soft spoken, and I can be that way too. I think you have your moments.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to my job, and this is the truth. Broadcast journalism, there is so much insecurity. It is one of the most insecure attracting jobs.
Really? Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's, you know, everybody wants your job. There are 10 people or 100 people who are right there knocking waiting.
Yeah.
And you have to come to terms with that. And in a newsroom or any station across the country, you have different egos. You have big egos.
Sure, I bet. Yeah.
And you have different sensitivities. And navigating that can be difficult and challenging.
Yeah.
And you see some interesting perspectives.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Does it at times have you felt overwhelmed because of that pressure that you're mentioning here?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. You know, I gave a lecture at UVU, the Utah Valley University.
Okay.
And some of the points I made was that you never, well, in terms of the insecure part, like that, so many people, again, want your job. And one of the points I said is trying to navigate that has been a learning lesson.
Sure.
You think your way is the right way, and that doesn't work in life, in your job.
Right.
I think, there's some things that for sure have taught me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, jumping ahead just a little bit here, you mentioned, and thank you for being vulnerable there. You mentioned that you've been in therapy, and you know, again, and I think, you know, people are like, oh, therapy, I don't want to do that, or that, you know, it kind of has this maybe a little bit of a stigma behind it.
Yeah.
But I think we all need help. we all need some different perspective from people, and and so I appreciate you sharing that.
Totally, Todd. What I've learned too is everyone's kind of messed up. Really, I'm being
true.
honest.
No, you're right. Yeah,
Everyone's got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And why not have some guidance? I am a huge proponent of therapy, and I do need it at this time in my life.
Sure.
And this has been a rough year.
Yeah.
But even besides that, whatever you're going through, it's a good check-in with yourself.
Yeah.
And I'll be also honest, my kids go to therapy,
Yeah.
and it helps me navigate motherhood with them.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I think it also says you're investing in you. Like, you care enough about you to go get some help. You care enough about your children to make sure that they're getting what they need, and they're centered, right? I think it proves that.
Well, my sister, she lives on the East Coast in Virginia, and she's been thinking about going to therapy too. And her daughter does, because she wants to have a better bond, a stronger bond with her daughter. Because growing up, and this is another vulnerability part, my dad has never said, "I love you." But I know he loves me. And, I'm getting so personal, Todd.
Yeah.
But,
Thank you.
And recently I told my sister I love her. My mom and I say I love you all the time.
Yeah.
But for some reason, my bigger sister, I've never said it, and she's never said it back.
Wow.
But just a couple of months ago, I said, "I love you." And it felt so good.
Yeah. Wow.
And she asked, what would I ask the therapist? And I said, you start there. You say, "I don't know the answer, but how do I create a stronger bond with my daughter?"
Right.
And
Yeah.
And sometimes we are worried about, well, what do I say to the therapist? And on a bi-weekly basis, I'm like, well, what do I want to cover? I don't have anything. Good things are great.
Yeah.
And then I touch on one thing, there's one thing that I remember this week that struck me, or it bothered me, or made me happy. And I talked to my therapist about it. She is amazing. And then you end up diving into a little bit more about yourself.
Right.
And I don't know, it's been really helpful.
Yeah. It's amazing how powerful words can be, but other words can be destructive at the same time. Right. But to hear that I love you, I'm sure when you told your sister that, I mean, she's probably like, well, excuse me?
Well,
what did you just say?
I know, and I gave it context. I said I went
Sure.
to therapy, and she mentions Dad has never said that to us. And I think I always write it in the card, and I think I've said it a couple of times, and he doesn't say it back.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's hard of hearing too. that doesn't help either.
Yeah, right. That's not helping.
But I know the love and how much sacrifice both my mom and dad have made, and there is no love lost, but there is something about those 3 words.
Yeah.
That are powerful, and maybe you feel a little empty because you haven't heard it.
For sure.
But it is a weight lifted when I told my sister.
Yeah. So your dad and mom they're still living?
They're still living.
Yeah.
They're still together.
Still together.
In Virginia, and I miss them so much.
Yeah. Do you ever think down the road you'll seek out and ask him why he's not saying it, or is that something you'll let it just play out like it needs to?
Maybe it will play out. I don't know, because I have done a lot this year in terms of challenging myself and putting myself on the line, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like I will, because life is short.
Yeah.
You've got one walk on this earth.
Sure.
And I think it's important.
Sorry.
No. To make it count.
Right.
I remember someone once telling me and my best friend, McCall, that we are here to take up space.
Right.
And in my culture, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know living as a Chinese American, that you are seen but not heard. And I've had to fight that.
Yeah. And here you are on TV all the time now, which is really cool.
I know. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Again, I talked in my lecture with the UVU students, and I said, my news director said, maybe this is in your wheelhouse, working in lifestyle. It's because I was news all the way, through and through, breaking news, hard news. And he said, you know what? Lifestyle might be your thing. And I thought, okay, but I'm really nervous. I'm ad-libbing. I'm doing what? There's no prompter.
Right.
So totally
Yeah.
out of
Totally
what
different
I
animal.
know.
Yeah.
And not that you're not ad-libbing on, as a reporter,
Sure.
but you can say some of your opinions. You can
Mm-hmm.
be a little edgy, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Be more real from what you're really feeling at the
Yeah.
moment. Right.
But another thing that he said was, you don't know the impact, and there will be other girls who might look at you and say, wow, I haven't seen another person on TV who looks like me, or at least on this show,
Right.
or at that station, or whatever. And that really hit me and struck me.
Yeah.
That, wow, yeah, I could do that. And I do want to be a role model in terms of diversity, and I do have a voice. And if you're Asian, you can do this. You can follow in my footsteps. Don't worry.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, girls, would look at you and go, man, if she's doing that, why can't I do that? And to be that role model, I think that's fantastic. That's got to feel good knowing that people are looking you in that direction.
It does feel good.
In that way.
It does feel good. And another thing, Todd, you know this. We have this amazing platform. You're reaching tens of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And so are we.
Yeah.
And we do have a responsibility, and it never gets lost on me, the impact that we have on people. May it be kids, families, and moms and dads, whoever's watching. And I remember this little girl, I was on Instagram, and we're always looking for people to come on the show and share their creativity.
Sure.
And this mom makes hair bows. Hair bows.
Hair bows, yeah.
And I texted her, I said, hey, why don't you come on the show? And she lives 4 hours away. She goes, oh my gosh, yes, come on. I would love to come on. And she had to come the night before, got a hotel.
Right.
A couple other families came on. This is before COVID.
Yeah.
Her daughter is the ambassador and model of the bows.
Oh, okay.
They come on, and at the end of the segment, the little girl gives us a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And later that day, the mom wrote back and said, you don't know what that meant to this little girl.
Wow.
Because she has not said maybe 15 words since her life. She's maybe 6 years old. And just that hug, that connection.
Yeah.
Just that simple act.
Yeah.
And inviting someone to share hair bows.
Right,
Seems like random.
No big deal. Right, yeah.
It meant the world to them.
Wow.
And maybe she'll remember it for a very long time.
For sure. I love what you said about connection. We're never more fully alive when we're connected. And I think that's why a lot of people right now are struggling because of the pandemic and everything, because I think we feel a lot of separation.
Yeah.
So lack of connection and stuff. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's really powerful. You mentioned that this has been a tough year, and if you're comfortable, I'd love you to just kind of share some points over this last year, what you've been through, and kind of how you're trying to get through this.
Yeah. If you don't mind me being vulnerable.
No.
But I also feel, Todd, and I thought about this for a few days, and if there was any place I would share, I think it would be with you, Todd, because I haven't shared this publicly.
That means a lot.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, listeners, this is real life, right? And so my husband and I, we divorced this year, early part of the year. And that's why I want your listeners to know we can do hard things in the toughest of times.
Yeah.
2020 has been so hard, devastating for so many, and devastating personally. But I also know that it's been so hopeful and amazing in my life at the same time.
Right, yeah.
So we separated in January, and it's been a long time coming. It wasn't because we were all together and too much time together.
Yeah.
We've been married for 10 years plus and have these beautiful kids.
Yeah.
But our relationship was a bit toxic, and we came to Utah, and it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And it needed to be done. And in the middle of all this, Devin, he moved to Denver right days before the pandemic. So I
Okay.
became a full-time working mom, single mom, and a homeschooler overnight.
Overnight. Wow.
And it was hard,
Sure.
very hard, but
Yeah.
this is something that needed to happen, and I'm not going to go into detail out
Sure.
of respect for him. And
For sure.
and we came as a package deal where we were both on the air. He's a meteorologist, and he was on the morning show. I'm doing the 4 p.m. news.
Yeah.
And out of respect for all of us, because it's been
Sure.
such a sensitive, hard thing to go through, and we're all going through it still.
Yeah.
I felt it's been almost a year, and
Yeah.
I'm okay talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in therapy, and I want to be the best mom I can be, and the best family unit, and
Yeah.
co-parenting, which I will say we were doing it great, even though it's a long distance
Sure.
thing.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear that that's working, you know.
Yeah. But despite all that, I think you can move forward. And I'm reminded the other day, I was listening to Alex Trebek's memoriam,
Yeah.
and we lost a great person. And
For
he
sure.
said, dealing with pancreatic cancer, and he said, "Am I courageous for facing cancer?" And he said, "I don't know. You know, cancer got me. I didn't have a choice,
Yeah. Right.
but I'm not scared. I don't have a fear of dying or fear of facing it. Does that make me courageous?" He said, "Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe." And I look at my life, and I'm proud of where I am today.
Yeah.
Is it courageous? I don't know. You do, and you take one step after another, and you wake up the next day, and you do what you have to do, and you have to be mom. And I go to therapy, and I'm taking these steps, but little
Yeah.
by little, I can get through the day.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing life at the same time.
Right.
So I say, however you look at it, you're doing it. Maybe you can only do today.
Yeah.
And then you wake up, and it's an even better day. You don't
For
know.
sure. For sure. Well, and I love what you're saying there. And I'm gonna put a little perspective, if that's okay,
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing. You know how like when you see someone and you just watch them and you see them grow, like even your own kids,
Yeah.
but they don't notice it so much. They don't notice the growth. But you as a mom, like, man, you're getting taller. And there's, the kids are like, what? I feel the same, right? Well, you ask, is this courageous, right? And you're like, I'm just doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
But I really believe that people that are watching you from the outside look at you and go, wow, that is courageous. And I see how you live your life. And to me, that is courageous. I really do believe that adversity is your wake-up call to your greatness. And you are up to the challenge. And you said it earlier that you're learning that you can do hard things. To me, I don't care what it is. That's courageous to me.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
and for validating that. And I think that's why I feel comfortable, and to let your viewers know that on the
Yeah.
outside,
Sure.
you can put it together. You can get it together.
Yeah,
But within a day, you go through your ups and downs.
for sure. Yeah, you
And
go.
you pick yourself up. And
Yeah.
there's certain things, maybe the sayings on your wall, Todd, will lift me up. But it's interesting how you do get strength as time goes on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did this play a part at all in this book that you've just written?
So I actually wrote this book. It's about weathering the storm.
Yeah.
Ironically.
real quick. Let's talk. The title is "When Clouds Come Out to Play."
When Clouds Come Out to Play. And I wrote this book, 4.5, 5 years ago, before
Oh, okay.
I even came to Utah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And knowing Devin, their dad, is a weather guy. He is like top notch when it comes to understanding weather.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's coincidental, maybe not, but I remember this really bad storm, and there's nothing like a book that will stick in your mind. And I thought, the kids aren't sleeping, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a book that I had read to them prior to a big storm that would remind them that things will be okay.
Yeah.
You will be just fine. It will pass. And so I didn't have that book.
Right.
I never read that book.
Yeah.
I wanted a book.
Sure.
And that night I wrote a book.
Right.
And
Wow.
I couldn't sleep that night, and the words just came
Just
about.
flowed.
And it's
Yeah.
a rhyming book. It's a cute little whimsical book. And I thought, if kids could really benefit from it, because I wish my kids had it.
Right. Absolutely.
And there's nothing like retaining it and remembering, weeks later, I read that book. I'm going to be okay, Ma.
Yeah.
This book said da 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 da. And books have helped my kids and my mommyhood
Yeah.
in certain aspects, if it's potty training or
Yeah.
whatnot, or going to bed early. Still working on that.
Well, again, it goes back to the power of words, right? We
Power
were
of
talking about
words.
earlier. So I know you're going to maybe read us a little
Yeah, read a
clip
little bit.
from the book.
But before I get to that,
Sure.
I shelved it until now. So we did our move. I found an illustrator and we were working on it. And I almost gave up on this project,
Yeah,
which a lot of people do.
for sure.
And it wasn't until maybe this year, and I will say Good Things Utah has motivated me, which I hope will motivate other people in whatever it may be, the struggles in their life or getting inspiration, but it has inspired my life.
Yeah.
And I remember a woman coming on not too long ago who was speaking to entrepreneurs. They were just starting a new venture, but the pandemic hit. She goes,
Yeah.
if you stop now and wait for the pandemic, are you going to start over? Or you will have to start over. Are you going to be more motivated then? And she said, what about if you worked on it just a little bit each day? And I felt like she was talking to me.
Yeah.
And I went home and I, maybe it was just a couple of internet searches on
Sure.
publishing and getting rejected and this and that.
Right.
And so be it. And then I talked with Melissa from Book Break. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah. Yep, I do.
She, we did a Zoom and she gave me all these ideas and I'm thinking, I'm 3 or 4 years out still. I need to get an agent.
Yeah.
I'm going to get rejected. And then, as soon as I'm discouraged again, a coworker walks in and he wrote a children's book, and he goes, why don't you start a Kickstarter? And I said, what? How do you do that with a book?
Right.
And then I'm off to the races. He walked me through. He's like, I have a printer of someone who laid out my book. And I don't know, all the pieces came together.
Sure. Yeah.
And a month and a half ago, I started a Kickstarter, Todd. And I'm done and I'm completed and I reached my goal.
Wow.
Thanks
Congratulations.
Thanks to you, Todd. You contributed to that.
I helped a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And I just want to let people know that you can do this, even if it's a couple minutes a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a part that you could maybe
I
share
want
with
to.
us today?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
When clouds come out to play. They love the sun, but now and then they have some fun. When clouds come out to play, rumble, grumble, storm gave way. Fluffy clouds turned dark and gray. Splish, splash, and then a flash. Wow. And then there's a part that
Love
says, don't worry, you can sit on mommy's lap, and this
Yeah.
too shall pass. And
Yeah.
I just wanted a book to comfort children.
For sure. Yeah, it's very soothing.
Yeah.
Especially when they're hearing it from a parent reading it or a close friend or whatever it may be.
And we
I
can
love it.
also extrapolate, in life, you weather storms,
Yeah.
weather day-to-day challenges.
Well, it's kind of like you said, what you've been going through this last year. I mean, you've been going through a really difficult storm. We can call it a storm,
Totally.
But like, I love what you said too, is that as hard as this has been, it's also been one of the greatest things.
Yeah.
And so talk about that piece just a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
and I know there's probably a lot there, but
No,
if you could share that
I
part
have
with us.
so much hope, and I am probably the happiest I've ever been.
Wow.
I mean, there are some lonely times.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, and some really frustrating times, but I can be myself.
Yeah.
And there is not this weight on me, and I don't know, maybe it's in your head of this control of I can't. And
Yeah.
now I can map out my own journey, my own life,
Yeah.
and I can reinvent myself.
Yeah, sure. Do you think that's contributed to the confidence that you kind of exude and the energy that you throw out?
Yeah, because I think we have preconceived notions from the time you're a child and you think of all these limitations that you might have.
Yeah.
And you break those barriers, you break those, who knows who did that? Was it bullying when you were little, or is it a comment, or your mom and dad said something? But now I have a responsibility as well for my kids to be strong and confident.
Yeah.
Am I being the best role model?
Yeah.
And in therapy, I can talk about it. And I want to say, you do the work afterwards, right?
Right.
They open the door and open the eyes for you.
Yeah.
They let you entertain. Could you think a different way? Could you try it this way? And you kind of sit on that for a minute.
Yeah, right.
And then it all of a sudden brings change.
Yeah.
In a positive way. And I'm so happy to be on this journey.
Yeah. Wow, what a perspective. That is beautiful.
Yeah, thank
Seriously,
you.
yeah. I think a lot of people need to hear that. Because I'm sure a lot of the listeners, and I know I have a really strong following that have been through a lot of hard times, and some are still going through it. And I mean, hearing this is probably going to be really impactful, and they need to hear these kind of things. So that was really beautifully said.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. So you're obviously on Good Things Utah, and just tell us, what is that like? What's
crazy.
it like being on there?
It's
yeah,
amazing.
you and all those women are just having a ball. You guys are having fun. And
we are having fun, and it is. I will say it is a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I think we want to bring a little distraction, a little thinking, challenge you a bit, bring inspiration. Like what you do on your show, we want to do it visually.
Yeah.
And bring a new recipe, or talk about maybe as a hard thing for moms.
Yeah.
I mean, to be funny, just what was it yesterday of laughing about how we still have to wipe our kids' butts.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think you were on the show. I don't know if that was the day you were on, but it's just funny because we can relate. Let's just talk about it.
Let's just
We're
talk.
all together.
Yeah.
Let's.
We all do this, so let's talk. Yeah. I love it.
When is the age where I stop wiping my child behind?
Yeah. I think that's what makes your show so great, is because you do talk about those kind of things, practical things that we're all going through, but sometimes maybe we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
But then you kind of just normalize it, and it's okay to talk about these things, right?
Normalizing and also validating people's thoughts.
Exactly.
And we have differing thoughts.
For sure.
And it's nice to bring, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's where the inspiration comes in.
Sure.
In my personal life of listening to the other women and Brian, but also I think...
we don't want to forget Brian. Sorry, shout out to Brian.
Shout out to Brian.
Yep.
You're not forgotten. But if it's changing my life, I sure hope it's changing other people's lives.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So do you ever get nervous when you're up there? I mean, is there ever a time you're like, I'm kind of nervous right now? Or have you done this enough times now where you're just kind of like, hey, this is like,
this is old hat.
Old hat, like riding a bike, you can do this with, blindfolded.
There are moments, and I can't really think of, maybe a big star. I think the pressure and the nervousness comes with the expectation.
Yeah, for sure.
And you want to get it right.
Yeah,
you don't want to embarrass anyone. You don't want to, call people out too much. No.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think just like today, I'm doing a DIY dipping pumpkins, and I've never done it before, but I'm leading the charge. So
right.
I'm like, is the nail polish going to fall out of the bottle? Like, your mind is going a million miles a minute because you want to make sure it's first good TV and like it comes off right.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many times where I'm doing a DIY and it's the first time and we're like, good luck.
Good luck with that one.
And a lot of the times, 50% of the times, it doesn't go right. And that's good TV.
But it really is. And that's what makes it good. You guys are just real. You guys are just real on that show. And I love that part about it.
Yeah. Nothing is really scripted in that sense because sometimes I can't make those DIYs ahead of time at home. I'm like, okay, the time I have to practice is on the air, right at 9:05.
For sure. No, I love that. Well, so I want to talk, before we go too, I want to talk a little bit about your Lucie Gray Productions Incorporated.
LucieandGray.com. And Lucie and Gray is a lifestyle brand. And this is the other thing I mentioned to our kids at UVU. I said, don't think when you latch onto a career, that's the end and beginning and end of your career.
Right.
Because I thought breaking hard news, that was going to be it.
That's it. I've made it.
I made it.
Yeah.
This is what I know. But lifestyle wasn't what I knew. And I jumped on board, and you never know. Oh my gosh, a year ago, am I going to own my own production company? But
right.
here we are.
Yeah.
And you think outside of the box, and you never know. And what we do is we shoot videos, and a lot of people can't afford doing their own videos or hire a production company. So we go in and we can shoot a product, or we want to highlight whatever event's happening.
Yeah.
And we do that well. And we have our personalities. My best friend and I, McCall, and she's also producer of Good Things
McCall's
Utah.
great too.
She's know
amazing.
her.
Yeah.
And I think we're just a dynamic duo. She's
I know
got
you
the
two
behind the
seem like
scene,
you guys
and
are awesome.
yeah, and she's in front of the camera too now, and with Lucie Gray, and but she has the backbones of so much of what TV and broadcasting is all about. And you put us together, and we've got good energy.
Got some good energy going on. Yeah.
And then we've just launched a couple of months ago this thing called What's in the Mail.
Okay.
And so people send us stuff, and we're opening, and we get to highlight whatever product, whatever use it might be. And I think it's a fun time.
Yeah. No, you guys seem like you guys just have a ball, and you guys really work well together.
Yeah.
Like you guys just feed off of each other, and it's just like, it's like your sisters. You can
are.
finish each other's sentences, and
we call ourselves soul sisters. So that's fitting.
Yeah. And it feels that way when you guys watch. You guys do a really good job.
Thank you.
And I've checked out that website, and it's fantastic. And it's very reasonable too. And what the stuff that you're doing, it's like, wow, for
$50,
$50 we'll do this and do that. I love it. Yeah. So what was the website again?
LucieandGray.com.
Okay.
And mainly we're on Instagram, and that's at Lucie and Gray.
Lucie and Gray.
Handle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know that. Well, I think we talked about, I would love for you to, if you're open to it, to give our listeners a challenge, something that they could maybe do to maybe improve themselves or their life, or just some advice if they're struggling. Because again, a lot of people are hearing this, might be going through a really difficult time. I know you've already said a lot of amazing things, but is there anything specifically that you could maybe share with us?
Oh gosh, Todd.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
I know you are. I know it's hard in the pandemic, but what I've been seeing, and also we lost Colin Karchner.
Yes. Yeah.
Recently, who's been a real advocate of the 8-second hug.
Yes.
And we're missing that connection, and it's back to connection.
Yeah.
And if you do have someone who you're quarantining with, and maybe it's your child, or maybe it's your puppy dog, maybe give them a hug and get grounded. I want you, the listeners, to do something for themselves.
Right.
And if it is breathing for 5 breaths, do it. And we do it a lot on the show, and I welcome it every time, because
awesome.
We need that reminder every day to think about yourself and be grounded. Again, we've got that one trip on Earth.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are here to take up space, and your words count. Your written word counts. And I love also, my son and my daughter brought home this Thanksgiving bingo card. And if you do all the things across, and one was write a letter, going back to you, Todd. If you could write a note to somebody.
Yeah.
And I love the randomness, actually, of writing a note. Maybe your loved ones matter, of course. Sure. But the ones that are strangers. We have this motivator, Levon, who just sent a text to our EP, and it meant so much. And I got one actually a couple of days ago from our great friend Jewel, who's also an spiritual motivator. Yeah. And her note meant so much. So could you do that text? For sure. To someone you haven't talked to in a long time? And I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, I love it. I've been thinking about a friend who I haven't talked to in years, and she lives out of state, and I think I'm going to do that. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing when we do something like that. Again, you're talking about connection here again, and I think that's great advice, actually.
And especially now, and we may feel like, well, we can't connect right now, but we really can. We might need to get a little more creative. I think that letter does it, because you can write a letter to anybody.
Yeah.
Write a letter to anyone. Tell them how much you appreciate them, and send it out. I'm telling you, when they open that letter up, they're going to just be blown away, because they're not expecting it.
What if it is that, mail carrier or the grocery store clerk?
Yeah.
What if it is that person?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it.
I've really enjoyed our talk.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. And thank you for being vulnerable. And I know this wasn't easy for you to share some of these things, because we talked before.
Yeah.
But thank you for being who you are. I just love the way you carry yourself. I love how you live your life. I admire it. And, being around you, I want to be a better person. And I know people would say the same thing. They'd be like, absolutely.
That means so much to me. Thank you.
No,
Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome. Well, if someone wants to reach out to you and they want to, ask you a question, or if they want to find your book when it's ready and, published and ready to go, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Oh, absolutely. You can contact me at my work website. It's schinn at abc4.com. So it's SCHINN at abc4, the number 4.com. And I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm Surae Chinn, and also on Instagram, same name. And I will put out, once my book is officially published, I will blast that out, Todd.
Yes.
Don't you worry.
Yeah, and I'll help you too. I will send it to everyone that I know as well. I'll help push that as well. And I think we just need more of that in this world right now. Just more positive, powerful things like that help us bring us back to the center, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time, Surae. You're wonderful, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to know you better, and I'm grateful to be on your show from time to time. I think I'm coming back in January, so I'm excited for that. But you guys are fantastic, and you're doing a lot of good with that show too, and I love every one of you on that show. You guys are amazing people.
Thank you so much. We feel it too, and that's what keeps us going.
For sure. We'll keep doing it, because it's amazing. Well, there you guys go. Thank you so much for spending some time with us again. I told you this would be another amazing guest. Please share this with people that you know. Please reach out to Surae and get her book, and read it for your children, get it for your grandchildren. Just please, reach out and do that, because we need more of this, especially during this pandemic. And I love the advice. Let's connect. Hug someone for 8 seconds in honor of Colin. We miss him already. And let's connect with each other, and let's put out some good positive vibes. Surae, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.